Welcome to the West Wing Week, your guide to everything that's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and beyond. This week, the President honored Father's Day and the WNBA Champion Indiana Fever at the White House, before embarking on a 4-day trip to the G8 Summit in Northern Ireland and then on to Berlin. That's June 14th to June 20th, or what's the crack? On Friday, the President hosted a Father's Day luncheon for fathers and children as part of his Fatherhood and Mentoring initiative, where he is joined by 15 Becoming a Man program participants, with whom he met in Chicago last February. And how about that baby?
Very relaxed.
Later, the President welcomed the WNBA Champion Indiana Fever to the White House to honor the team's victory and their dedication to community service and empowering women.
Mr. President, the last thing I want to say is I want to thank you personally, you and the First Lady, for all you do to empower women. You have no idea. Every day you both send a strong message that little girls can do anything they want to do and they can be anything they want to be.
Then, we checked in with Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes, where he previewed the President's trip to Europe for the latest edition of The Roads Ahead.
This is an opportunity for us to come together with some of the most important countries that we deal with and address this very broad agenda. We'll also have a chance in Northern Ireland to speak to the peace process. Then in Germany, the President will be hosted at a state visit by Chancellor Merkel, one of our most important partners, both in promoting economic growth, but dealing with all of these different security challenges, including Afghanistan, where Germany has committed a significant amount of troops. So a very busy trip over the next few days, an opportunity to discuss a lot of important subjects, and we're looking forward to continuing that work.
On Sunday, at Father's Day, it was time for the first family to fly east for an overnight trip over the Atlantic Ocean to get started on the trip to the UK and Germany. The President and the first family touched down in Belfast, where they highlighted the hard work, dialogue, and institutional development the people of Northern Ireland have undertaken together to advance peace and prosperity.
Wherever we go, no matter what's on our plate, we always do our best to meet with young people just like all of you.
All of you, every single young person here today, possess something the generation before yours did not, and that is an example to follow. When those who took a chance on peace got started, they didn't have a successful model to emulate. They didn't know how it would work, but they took a chance. And so far, it has succeeded. The rest now is up to you.
He then met with Prime Minister David Cameron, and for their own preview of this year's G8 Summit, they paid a visit to the Enniskillen Primary School and got a primer on the summit from the students there.
Anybody have any sense of what we're going to be talking about?
World hunger.
World hunger is one topic, yeah. Poverty as well, and how we can alleviate poverty and make sure that young people like you are getting educations around the world.
Rules.
Trying to stop them, hopefully, as much as we can.
Pollution.
And trying to do something about pollution.
It doesn't feel real that the G8 leaders are here. Everyone's excited, so give them a cheer.
Yeah.
After the briefing from the primary schoolers, the President attended his 5th G8 Summit, held in picture-perfect Lough Erne in Northern Ireland. Working into the evening and throughout the following day, the President and 7 other fellow world leaders gathered to address pressing economic, political, and security challenges from around the globe, and to promote the advancement of trade and greater transparency among G8 members and the developing world. As a result of their work there, the President announced the launch of negotiations on a new trade agreement, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, also known as TTIP.
We invest nearly $4 trillion in each other's economies, and all that supports around 13 million jobs on both sides of the Atlantic. And this potentially groundbreaking partnership would deepen those ties.
Then, on a balmy Tuesday evening, it was time to leave the Emerald Isle, and the first family traveled on to Berlin for an official visit and to reaffirm the strong ties between the U.S. and Germany, our vital ally and economic partner. On Wednesday, the President and First Lady stopped by to give special thanks to a gathering of embassy staff and spent some time visiting with their families. Then it was time to meet the President for this President's official welcome ceremony at the historic Schloss Bellevue.
Good to see you, man.
He then traveled to the Chancellery, where he and Chancellor Merkel continued discussions on a wide range of bilateral and global issues.
In both conversations with Chancellor Merkel and earlier with your President, I reminded them that the relationship with Europe remains the cornerstone of our freedom and our security.
Later that afternoon, at the invitation of Chancellor Merkel, the President returned to the public podium 5 years after speaking there as a senator and 50 years after President Kennedy's famous Ich bin ein Berliner speech. Standing on the east side of the Brandenburg Gate, in front of a crowd of 4,500 Germans on the first hot day of summer. The president addressed the deep and enduring bonds between the U.S. and Germany, the vital importance of the transatlantic alliance, and the important values that bind our nations together.
Complacency is not the character of great nations. And I've come here to this city of hope because the tests of our time demand the same fighting spirit that defined Berlin.
Then, on a lovely summer night in this European capital, it was time to return to our capital and wrap up this West Wing week. Stay tuned, though. The summer work isn't over. So to find out more information on any of these topics or to see complete videos of these events, go to whitehouse.gov. And thanks again for checking out your West Wing week.